Has this ever happened to you? You meet a man, and at first, there's a subtle tension in the air, like the quiet before a storm. His gaze lingers, his attention unwavering. Yet there's something behind those eyes, something that is not quite visible on the surface. You sense it, a kind of magnetic pull, a force that you can't quite explain, but one that you cannot deny. There is no outward show of affection, no grand gestures, just an intensity that you can almost taste, hovering between you. In the realm of attraction and desire, men often play their cards close to their chest, their feelings hidden in the shadows. But make no mistake, when a man is obsessed with you, his psyche is at war with itself. He may not show it, but beneath the mask of confidence and composure, there are 7 profound things that he conceals, layers of vulnerability, projections, and deep-seated fears. These are the unspoken things that speak volumes about his inner world, and more often than not, they echo the eternal dance between the anima and the animus, the masculine and the feminine. At the heart of every man's hidden obsession lies the first unspoken truth, his fear of rejection. A man, particularly one who is emotionally distant or controlled in his exterior, will rarely let his guard down completely. His persona, his mask, forged from years of societal conditioning and personal trauma, keeps him from displaying the full extent of his feelings. The male ego, shaped by years of expectations to remain stoic and unflinching, cannot afford to let his desire be seen as weakness. This fear of rejection, though, goes deeper than mere social embarrassment. It is the primal fear of being unworthy, of failing to meet the expectations placed upon him by both the world and himself. The projection of invulnerability is a defense mechanism to keep the world at bay, to avoid the pain of feeling less than. But beneath this projection lies a soft, tender part of him, a boy who is terrified of losing his sense of worth through your rejection. He fears being exposed as someone who is too much, or worse, not enough. This is where Jung's concept of the shadow comes into play. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we keep hidden from the world, the parts we refuse to acknowledge because they do not fit within our constructed identity. For the man who is obsessed with you, the shadow is often the very thing that makes him feel vulnerable and human. He might be projecting a persona of self-sufficiency, but behind that mask, he is longing to be seen, to be validated, to be loved in a way that does not diminish him. But it's not just his fear of rejection that he hides, it is his emotional dependency. While he may appear aloof, strong, and independent, his obsession with you is, in part, a form of emotional neediness that he will never admit. He longs to be needed, to be essential in your life, but he is terrified of revealing this weakness. The man who is consumed by his desire for you is often wrestling with his own sense of adequacy, wondering if his love and attention are enough for you, if you will appreciate him in return, or if he will simply fade into the background like so many others before him. This is the paradox. His obsession is not about dominance or control. It is about a deep yearning for connection and recognition, a desire to be loved not just for what he projects, but for who he truly is. And so, he hides his emotional dependency, cloaking it in the guise of aloofness, pride, and emotional detachment. Yet, as much as he hides his own vulnerability, there is something else he is concealing, his profound fear of being smothered. In his heart, he wants you, but he also fears that you will consume him. This is the tragic irony of the male psyche. He longs for deep connection, but he is also terrified of losing his identity in the process. The man who is obsessed with you often fears that in loving you too much, he will lose himself, his sense of self-worth, his individuality, his personal space. This fear speaks to the delicate balance between intimacy and independence. In his obsession, he is torn between wanting to merge with you and wanting to remain free. This fear is primal, one that can be traced back to the earliest stages of development, where attachment to the mother was both comforting and terrifying. For a man, especially one who has not undergone a deep process of individuation, the psychological journey towards self-actualization, there is always the lurking fear that love will bind him, chain him, and prevent him from being his true self. Now, the third thing that a man hides when he is obsessed with you is something that may surprise you: his insecurities about your attraction to him. Beneath the exterior of confidence, a man who is obsessed with you is constantly measuring himself, testing himself against the standard of your desires. He wonders if you are truly attracted to him, if his every word, his every gesture, is enough to win your favor. Even in his most assured moments, there is a whisper of doubt, a question that lingers in the corners of his mind. Am I enough? This is a deeply human fear, one that connects him to the universal experience of vulnerability. The insecure man is not necessarily the one who doubts his physical appearance, but rather the one who doubts his ability to meet your emotional and intellectual needs. He may be the master of his craft, the king of his world, but when it comes to you, he feels uncertain, out of his depth. In his obsession with you, he constantly seeks validation, a signal from you that he is enough, that he measures up. But no matter how much he hides his insecurities, no matter how much he projects an image of strength and certainty, his hidden desires are alive within him, desires that transcend the surface level of physical attraction. These are the things he desires to give you, the parts of him that yearn for your approval and recognition. The man who is obsessed with you is not simply an object of desire, but a complex web of contradictions, fears, and dreams. He hides from you, yes, but not out of malice. It is a deep, psychological defense, the manifestation of centuries-old patterns of masculinity and the eternal struggle between the self and the other. His obsession is not simply a matter of attraction. It is a matter of proving his worth, of finding a place for himself in a world that often tells him he must be something he is not. So the next time you encounter this kind of man, the one who seems to hover on the edge of your life, never fully stepping forward but never quite leaving, remember that he is not the enigma you think he is. Behind his obsession lies a world of hidden fears, deep desires, and untold vulnerabilities. But the question remains, can you see him for who he truly is? Or will you allow the mask to remain firmly in place, leaving both of you to hide in the shadows? Imagine this. You're standing on the precipice, watching him from a distance, as his emotional walls rise higher with each passing day. The obsession that brews beneath his surface is not just about the chemistry between you, it is the manifestation of his inner turbulence, a reflection of his most primal need to possess what he fears losing. But what he hides, even from himself, is the extent to which his feelings for you have become intertwined with his own identity. This leads us to the fourth thing he hides, his need for validation. The man who is obsessed with you is not just yearning for your love, but for your admiration, for your approval. To him, your recognition is a mirror through which he reflects his own worth. It is not enough that he knows his value, he needs you to confirm it, to validate his existence. This is more than just ego, it is a deep-seated desire to be seen, to be valued for who he is, not just for what he represents. Jung spoke of the idea of the persona, the social mask that we wear to present a polished version of ourselves to the outside world. For many men, their persona is the dominant force, so much so that it becomes almost indistinguishable from their true self. This persona often reflects society's expectations of masculinity, strength, control, independence. But beneath this mask is a man who longs to be recognized for something deeper, more authentic. The obsession he holds for you is not only about wanting your affection, it is a desperate search for your approval. An unconscious plea for you to see him as more than just a reflection of his persona. This hidden need for validation is the foundation of his emotional complexity. He seeks to possess you not just as a lover, but as a source of reassurance for his fractured sense of self. You become the mirror that reflects his worth. In the shadow of this need, his desire for you can turn toxic if left unchecked, for the validation he craves becomes an insatiable hunger that no amount of attention or affection will ever fully satisfy. Yet, even as he hides this hunger, there is a fifth truth, his deep envy of your freedom. The more he becomes obsessed with you, the more he becomes aware of the subtle power you hold, the power to be free, to live without the constraints of societal expectations, to move through life on your own terms. This This autonomy is something he desires but cannot fully embrace within himself. It is not that he doesn't admire you, in fact, he does. He is in awe of your ability to stand independently, to walk through the world without needing external validation. But this envy, a shadow of his own desire for freedom, is buried deep beneath his surface. It is the part of him that wishes to break free from the chains of convention, but which cannot do so because his identity is so tightly bound to the image of control and strength that society expects from him. The man who is obsessed with you, beneath his possessiveness, is also torn. He desires you, yes, but he also yearns to be free of the very things that keep him tied to the same old patterns. In your freedom, he sees the possibility of his own liberation. But this vision is for him an illusion. He is not ready to free himself, and so his obsession takes on a darker tone, laced with frustration and confusion. He projects his desire for liberation onto you, seeing you as the key to unlocking his own chains. But the truth is, he is not yet ready to step into the fullness of his own potential. And so, your autonomy becomes something that both attracts and threatens him, creating an endless cycle of longing and fear. This brings us to the sixth thing he hides, his desire to control the narrative. A man who is obsessed with you may appear passive at times, waiting for you to initiate, to make the first move. But this passivity is a carefully constructed illusion. Beneath it lies an unspoken desire to control the direction of the relationship, to steer the ship without letting you realize it. He is not content with merely existing within the dynamic. He wants to shape it, to mold it according to his own desires and needs. The need for control is deeply rooted in the male unconscious. It stems from a historical and cultural narrative that positions men as the ones who must steer the course of relationships, career, and life. The man who is obsessed with you, then, may project a sense of calm and detachment, but his mind is racing with thoughts of how he can steer the connection to meet his own emotional needs. He doesn't want you to see this side of him, for it would break the illusion of his self-sufficiency. But at the core of his obsession is a deep desire to influence the way you perceive him, to craft a version of the story in which he remains the hero. Jung's theory of the animus, the masculine counterpart to the feminine anima, helps to explain this dynamic. The animus represents the masculine energy within women, but it also exists in men as a counterbalance to their own unconscious. For the man who is obsessed with you, this animus energy is often repressed, meaning that he may struggle to reconcile his desire to control with his deeper need for emotional connection. His obsession, then, is both a projection of this struggle and an attempt to reclaim his sense of power in a relationship that feels uncertain and outside his control. Finally, the seventh thing he hides, the most powerful and hidden of them all, is his fear of being irrelevant. His obsession with you is, at its core, an attempt to assert his importance in your life. He may seem indifferent, but what he truly fears is that, one day, you will forget him, that you will move on, that you will no longer see him as central to your world. This is not about ego in the traditional sense. This fear runs deeper, touching the very essence of his need to be seen, heard, and felt. The man who is obsessed with you is not simply concerned with being loved. He is terrified of being rendered obsolete, of fading into the background of your life. His desire for you becomes the ultimate confirmation of his relevance, the proof that he matters. And yet, this very obsession is what keeps him from truly connecting with you. For his focus is on his own sense of significance, not on the genuine bond that could exist between you. His fear of irrelevance speaks to a profound insecurity within the male psyche, one that is often masked by external confidence but lurks silently in the background. His obsession is both a quest for affirmation and a reflection of his deepest fear, that he will one day be forgotten. The man who hides beneath his obsession with you is not merely an individual acting out of desire. He is the product of centuries of collective conditioning. His deepest fears, hidden desires, and shadowed projections are not just personal. They are the product of a world that teaches men to suppress vulnerability, to pursue strength at the cost of emotional honesty, and to connect through power rather than through mutual understanding. The result is a labyrinth of contradictions that leaves him trapped within himself, longing for you, but afraid of what his desire means. Yet, as these 7 things swirl in the depths of his psyche, there lies something even deeper. Beyond the fear of rejection, the need for validation, the emotional dependency, and the control he wishes to exert, there lies a fundamental truth. He does not know how to love you the way you deserve to be loved. You see, a man who is obsessed with you, no matter how intense, no matter how deep his feelings, is not truly loving you. He is loving the idea of you. He is loving the projection of you that exists in his mind, the image that he has crafted and shaped according to his own needs, fears, and desires. This is where the danger lies, for in this projection, he fails to see you for who you truly are. He fails to see the complexities of your own inner world, the darkness and light that make you whole. This is the crux of what Jung called the anima projection. In every man, there is an unconscious image of the feminine that he carries with him throughout life. This image is not a reflection of any woman he meets, but rather an internalized archetype, an idealized version of the feminine. When a man becomes obsessed with a woman, what he is truly obsessed with is the version of her that aligns with his anima, the part of her that fulfills his inner needs, fantasies, and desires. This projection, though powerful, is also deeply limiting. It locks the man into a fantasy that cannot be sustained in the real world. He becomes emotionally dependent on something that does not exist outside of his own mind. And in doing so, he is blind to your true self, to your essence. He sees only what he wants to see, the reflection of his own unconscious desires. But this is not a situation without hope. There is something profoundly empowering about recognizing the dynamics at play in these types of relationships. When you understand that his obsession is not about you, but about his own inner struggle, you can detach from the projections he casts upon you. You can step back and recognize that his obsession is not a reflection of your value, but a projection of his own need for validation and control. The moment you step away from his projection and see him for what he is, a man locked in a battle between his unconscious desires and the roles he has been taught to play, you regain your power. You become the observer, the one who sees through the mask, the one who is no longer swayed by the intensity of his emotional turbulence. You can choose whether to engage, to remain in the dynamic, or to walk away from it completely. The choice becomes yours, and in that choice, you reclaim your sovereignty. Because here lies the ultimate truth. The woman who knows her worth does not need to chase. She does not need to prove herself. She does not need to bend and twist herself into shapes to fit the projections of others. She knows that her value is not dependent on the validation of any man, no matter how obsessed he may become. Her worth is intrinsic, and it is not for sale. In recognizing this power, you unlock the secret to emotional freedom. You understand that you are not here to fulfill anyone's needs but your own. You are not a reflection of another's desires, but a whole, complex being in your own right. And as you step into this realization, you begin the process of individuation, the journey toward becoming the fullest, truest version of yourself. The obsession of a man, no matter how intense, will never define you. It will never diminish you, unless you allow it to. And when you recognize the deeper dynamics at play, you can step away from the need for external validation and move into a space of emotional liberation where you no longer feel the need to chase, to prove, or to perform. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.